Over the past day, on October 15, the Ukrainian Navy destroyed 4 Hyacinth S self-propelled guns, 2 ammunition depots, a mortar, and 26 Russian invaders. According to Ukrinform, the Ukrainian Navy reported this on Telegram. On October 15, servicemen of military units and units of the Marine Corps Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, as part of groupings, put up steadfast and courageous resistance to the Russian invaders in given sectors of the front. Over the past day, the Marines destroyed 9 invaders and a mortar with ammunition. In addition, the artillery units of the Navy of the Armed Forces of Ukraine attacked the accumulation of Russian manpower and equipment, as a result of which 17 people, 4 Hyacinth S self-propelled guns and 2 ammunition depots were killed. As Ukrinform reported, from February 24 to October 16, the Armed Forces of Ukraine destroyed about 65,000 Russian invaders. As of October 16, the Russian Federation keeps 10 enemy ships and boats on combat duty in the Black and Azov Seas. In the Mediterranean, Russia maintains 11 ships, including 5 SLCM carriers with a total salvo of 76 missiles. According to Ukrinform, the press service of the Command of the Naval Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine announced this on Telegram. Black Sea, up to 4 enemy ships and boats are on combat duty, 2 caliber SLCM carriers, sea-based cruise missiles, addition, the total salvo of which is 16 missiles, acted in the interests of launching missile strikes on Ukraine. Sea of Azov, Sea Communications continue to control up to 6 enemy ships and boats. Mediterranean Sea, the enemy holds a grouping of 11 ships, including 5 SLCM carriers with a total salvo of 76 missiles. It is also noted that in the interests of the Russian Federation, a crossing was made through the Kerchenko Strait. 19 vessels entered the Black Sea, of which 3 vessels continued to move towards the Bosphorus Strait, to the Sea of Azov, 12 vessels, of which 2 vessels crossed from the Bosphorus Strait. As Ukrinform reported, as of October 12, Russia kept up to 7 ships on combat duty in the Black Sea, 2 of them were armed with caliber missiles. The Iranian authorities are preparing to transfer ballistic missiles to the Russian Federation, which are likely to be used by Russia in the war against Ukraine. This was reported by the Washington Post, reports Ukrinform. It is reported, in particular, that according to representatives of the U.S. intelligence services and their allies, who agreed to communicate on condition of anonymity, we are talking about the supply of surface-to-surface ballistic missiles, such as Fateh 110, by Iran to Russia, and Zulfiqar, which are capable of hitting targets at a distance of 300 and 700 kilometers, respectively. The Washington Post notes that on September 18, Iran sent a delegation to Moscow to agree on an increase in the supply of Iranian weapons to Russia, including ballistic missiles. As previously reported, in August, Russia began to buy attack drones from Iran, the massive use of which on the battlefield in Ukraine began in September. According to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, the Russian Federation has ordered 2,400 combat drones from Iran. Russia is facing a shortage of precision-guided missiles, having used up a significant number of them on civilian targets in Ukraine. According to Ukrainian Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov on Friday, as of October 12, 609 of the 1,844 missiles left in the warehouses of the Russian armed forces, which were before the start of a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine guarantees the payment of $100,000 for the transfer of Igor Gherkin, Strelkov, to Ukrainian captivity. According to Ukrinform, this was reported by the GUR. Gherkin is one of the most notorious Russian terrorists, the former so-called DPR Minister of Defense, who decided to resume participation in the war against Ukraine. A number of cases have been brought against him for terrorist activities, torture, murder and violation of state sovereignty. Gherkin was also put on the international wanted list by the Netherlands in the case of the downing of a civilian Boeing 777 flight MH17 in the sky over the Donetsk region in the summer of 2014. The GUR emphasizes that not a single war criminal will escape punishment. As Ukrinform reported, Ukrainian activists are promising $30,000 for the capture of the terrorist Gherkin, who was probably mobilized in the Russian Federation. The Russian occupiers exert information and psychological pressure, talking about successes in the Lyman and Bakhmut directions. Serhiy Cherevity, representative of the Eastern Group of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, said this on the air of the United News Telethon, an Ukrinform correspondent reports. For several days in a row, Russian troops have been trying to take Bakhmut. This is their Brest fortress. Very heavy fighting, the enemy concentrated his powerful forces here. However, there the Ukrainian defense forces hold the blow and do not let them go further, the speaker assured. According to him, the information about the counteroffensive of the Russians on the Lyman is also not true. Although the enemy is trying to show the opposite. In fact, they are building defensive positions in the Kremenaya, Svetovo area. Moreover, in their public pages they brag about the fact that they are building the so-called Putin line, filmed from a quadricopter, from several positions, a storyboard. They say that they are ready not to let go of the Ukrainian army and not a step back. And I think that this is also an element of information impact on us. But our headquarters will take into account all operational information when planning subsequent actions. I don't think that the enemy is outplaying us in this direction, said Cherevity. Earlier it was reported that Russian troops attacked 7 settlements in the Donetsk region over the past day. There are wounded and dead civilians. As part of the deployment of a joint regional group in Belarus, it is planned to deploy about 9,000 Russian troops. This was stated by the head of the Department of International Military Cooperation, Assistant Minister of Defense of Belarus Valery Rivenko on Twitter, Ukrinform reports. The first echelons with Russian servicemen who are part of the RGV, regional grouping of troops, edition, began to arrive in Belarus. The move will take several days. The total number will be slightly less than 9,000 people, Rivenko wrote. In addition, the Ministry of Defense of Belarus reported that the aviation component of the regional group began to arrive in Belarus. As reported, Alexander Lukashenko said this week that Belarus and Russia had begun deploying a regional group of the Union state. He substantiated this by an allegedly prepared attack by Ukraine and NATO countries. According to Lukashenko, thousands of Russian soldiers are to arrive in Belarus. The European Union called on Belarus to stop allowing its own territory to be used as a launch pad for Russian missiles and warns against the creation of a Russian-Belarusian group of forces, since such a step is aimed at escalating aggression and will not go unanswered by the EU. The Russian occupiers fired at the bulk mangonets from multiple launch rocket systems. Chairman of the Dnipropetrovsk Regional Council Mykola Lukashuk announced this on Telegram, Ukrinform reports. In the evening, the occupation troops of the Russian Federation from the MLRS again struck at the village of Marganets, Nikopol district, the report says. According to preliminary data, people were not injured. The remaining districts of the region were not subjected to enemy shelling, and the radiation background in the region remains unchanged, within the normal range. The situation on the borders of the Dnipropetrovsk region is fully controlled by the armed forces of Ukraine. Ukraine remembers everyone who was captured by Russia, and will return everyone to the last. President Volodymyr Zelensky announced this in a video message, Ukrinform reports. In particular, he thanked the divisions replenishing the exchange fund. For the more prisoners captured by our fighters, the more captured Ukrainians will return home. Today I want to single out those divisions that ensured our results in replenishing the exchange fund. This is extremely important. Everyone who captures the Russian military gives us the opportunity to free our heroes. I thank the 54th Separate Reconnaissance Battalion named after Mikhail Tisha, the 80th 1st Separate Air Assault Brigade and the 92nd Separate Mechanized Brigade, which during the offensive significantly increased our ability to return Ukrainians home. We remember our people held in Russia. We must free them and must free them all, leaving no one to the enemy. But for this, it is necessary to capture the occupiers, as many as possible, the head of state said. As reported, the project I Want to Live, which informs the Russian military about the opportunity to lay down their arms and save their lives, has received more than 2,000 applications from Russian military personnel or their relatives. Russia sponsors terror by recruiting convicts to serve at the front with punishments for serious crimes. President Volodymyr Zelensky announced this in a video message, Ukrinform reports. The occupiers threw against our forces everyone they could, including 2,000 Zeks. They are right there among the mercenaries. And these are convicts with long terms for serious crimes. They are kept at the front not only with money, but also with the promise of amnesty, so the Russian state sponsors terror, looks for killers in prisons and promises them freedom if they kill again. Does anyone in the world still doubt whether Russia should be officially recognized as a terrorist state? Hardly, Zelensky stressed. The head of state also added that the situation on the front line has not changed significantly over the past day. The situation on the front line has not changed significantly over the past day. The key hotspots in the Donbass are Soledar and Bakhmut, where very heavy fighting continues. I thank all our fighters who heroically hold their positions both near Bakhmut and Soledar, and in all other directions where military clashes are currently ongoing, in the east, in the south of the state, the president noted. As reported, the Russian occupiers are exerting information and psychological pressure, talking about successes in the Lyman and Bakhmut directions.